something's not going well in my business, or it's not the way I want it to look or be, or someone on my team messed up and it makes me look a certain way, or my
there's a sense of loss.
Yes, my identity, or my ego gets like.
Yes. So when I told Christian G, I said, I think I've found the 3 triggers to suffering. He goes, what's that? I said, it's loss, less, never. Whenever you believe, your mind believes, a stressful thought like, oh my God, my business is not going here. Oh, this guy screwed this up and now I've lost something. I've lost this opportunity, or I've lost the time, or I've lost the money. Or it cannot be someone else, it could be you. You could say, I failed to do this. I did something, or I failed to do something, and as a result, I've lost something I value: significance, trust, love, money, freedom, whatever. Or you said something or did something or failed to do something, or I failed to do something or say something, and I feel like I have less love, or less money, or less freedom. Less will make you suffer. The one that's worse is never. If you start believing that because she said that or she did that, or because I failed to do this or I said that, I'll never have love again, I'll never be wealthy, I'll never be free. Once you believe that shit, it's true, because you won't initiate, you won't solve it, you won't create it. So I'm very sensitive to loss, less, never. Anything that triggers that, and the antidote to it is to realize it's not you. So your thought of, God, my business is stressful, is this gonna, I'm sure it'll make it, but a little more part of you like, is this gonna make it?
Right.
Or this guy screwed up and look, it screwed me out of all these things. When those things happen and you suffer, it puts you in a mode where what you're really suffering about is yourself. And you were honest about it. Thank you for that. I saw you do it. You said, I was thinking this guy did this and it cost me this.
Yeah.
It's the me that makes us suffer.
Yeah.
When a woman will say, I'm really worried about my children, I'm really stressed, she's suffering about her children, and I'll listen to her, and I'll say, tell me, and she'll say, well, they're not doing this, not doing that, and I'll turn to her usually and say, I hope you can hear yourself, because the real reason you're suffering is not because of your children, it's not because they're not doing well, it's because you think you failed them. It's about you. Because otherwise you'd just be working on the solution.
Right.
But you're busy beating yourself up, feeling bad, thinking the worst case scenario, right? So the antidote to suffering, the antidote to loss, less, never, is appreciation. I always tell people, trade your expectation for appreciation, your whole life changes. So I was just doing this talk here earlier and I shared with them experience, and I'm fortunate enough to have my own private jet now, but it's a intercontinental jet, so I can fly straight to China. It's bigger than a Gulfstream, it's a Global Express. So it's like having your own bed in the sky, office in the sky. It's this amazing privilege.
We filmed in there last time.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. So it's fun. So you got the sense of it. It's so great. But up until that time, I was chartering, but half my business was overseas, and it's like $400,000 to fly to Australia and back on a Gulfstream. So it didn't make any sense. I finally did well enough. I sold a couple companies, made a couple $100 million, and I went and bought the plane. But before that, I would be so stressed getting on Qantas Airlines to fly to Australia. First class, well bed. I would be so stressed because in my head I go, there's no internet. I'm cut off for 14 hours. I got 31 companies. I got this list of calls and texts and Slacks and emails, and by the time I get there, it's going to triple in size.
You're going to lose money.
I'd be all stressed out, right? And then one day I asked myself, what the F is stressful about sitting or lying when you go to bed, or you're on a commercial flight like that in first class? And I realized what an idiot I was. But it still grabbed me. You'd still suffer. And I remember one of the last times it happened before I got my plane, ironically, they announced on the air, they said, ladies and gentlemen, we're proud to announce we have international internet. And it was like God descended in the airplane. We're all cheering, clapping. It's so wonderful, right? And then within about 9 minutes, the thing broke down.
Oh, man, yeah. Everyone's out there.
Everybody's pissed. They're like, this is bullshit. I can't believe this. I'm not putting up with this. And I tell a story because 9 minutes before, it was a miracle. Now, after 9 minutes, it's already an expectation.
Wow.
And when you have expectations, you're always miserable. I realized my happiness was so cheap because all I had to do was have this nearby and I could lose my happiness because 31 companies, 1,200 employees, 5 continents, I think. Yeah, 5 continents now. 7 different news. What are the chances that right now someone is screwing up something with that many employees and that many businesses?
100% chance.
100%.
Yeah.
So all I had to do was wait and open up and find the piece there. It's like, I can't believe what the hell is the matter with them. See, I realized all I had to do was have my phone to be stressed. If that's true, my happiness is so cheap. Because what are the chances of everybody doing exactly what you think they should do the right way every day?
Zero.
Zero. What are the chances of people you love doing what you want them to do the way you want to do them every day?
Zero.
What are the chances of you doing the right thing every day, even if you're talented and disciplined? Zero. So your happiness will never last as long as it's got expectation behind it. So one more time, in any communication with another human being, and they respond to you, they communicate to you, they react to you, they respond to you, that reaction, that response, I don't care what it looks like on the outside or what it seems like, it's either a loving response or a cry for help. Which one do you think my mom was doing in this situation? Was that a loving response or a cry for help? It was a cry for help, and the help is saying, I'm feeling what? Hurt because I have a sense of what? It may not be true, but that's what I feel, and that person's a cry for help. Now, how do most people respond to a cry for help? With another cry for help. Is that true? How do I first start to respond to my mom? She's angry with me. She doesn't have a right to be angry. How could she do this to me? What's going on? I get angry back. So I respond with a cry for help. How dare you? How can you say this to me? Don't pull this crap on me. Look what I do for you. What kind of crap is this? Interesting. So when two people are yelling at each other, crying for help back and forth, who gets helped? Nobody. So you know what happens? The anger doesn't stop. What happens is the anger goes one place. Either it starts going out to other people and becomes resentment, which builds. And that resentment may be expressed or not expressed. Usually resentment is expressed non-verbally to other people. And some people do it by taking their resentment and they express it by what they call confrontation. And they actually feel good about it. They say, I'm not one of those people who keeps it inside. I confront people, little bastards. That'll really build a quality communication, won't it? I confront, I don't keep it inside. You, I'll tell you what's wrong. Yesterday, when you did this and this, made me feel this way. I request in the future you change. Let me try this. You know what? That doesn't work. It can work. Anything can work. The tone of voice you use is going to play a bigger role than what you say. How many would agree? Your facial expression is going to play a bigger role than what you say. How many agree? And somebody else can sit there and listen to you and say, yes, I'll abide by your request, but inside they're going, no. Okay, that's not communication. That's not quality communication. We want to change and enhance our format. The other thing we can do is when we feel anger, instead of resenting and confronting, we can just keep it inside. If we keep it inside, usually what it becomes is depression. People are depressed, they don't even know why. The reason people are depressed, they feel like they're not in control. Like things are happening they're not in control of. They're not able to communicate and get control of their life. A lot of times depression is directly related to the fact they've kept this anger inside and these upsets, and they haven't expressed them, they become depressed. How many can relate to this? Not you, but other people you've seen in real life. I thought so. So the bottom line is, what we've got to do when somebody responds to us with a cry for help is give them what kind of response? Which of the two responses should we give somebody when they give us a cry for help? A loving response. Is that always easy to do? No. What it requires is you to remember that no matter what it looks like, they're just really crying for help.
And when you're in a negative state, you don't perform at a higher level. When you're in a negative state, it affects your biochemistry, it affects your immune system. You're in a negative state, it affects the people around you. When you're in a great state, perform better, enjoy life more, greater impact, all the above. So it's intelligent to be in a peak state. But you know, you only can manage what you measure, like a business. You know, when I take a company over and turn around and start measuring things, and I measure the most important things, and the more you measure, the better it'll get. Because you get more, instead of measuring once a year, if you're measuring, once a week, you got 52 times to improve it versus one. So I started measuring it, and I said, I'm going to live in a beautiful state no matter what every day. Now, in order to do that, I have to do two things. A, I have to acknowledge that I've been suffering, and I need to figure out what my favorite flavor of suffering is. and I played off of that with myself, and I thought, frustrated and pissed off were pretty useful for me. In fact, I realized that my happiness was so cheap because all I needed was this thing, and I could lose my happiness because ding, something cool, or ding, something not so cool. When you got 1,200 employees, what are the chances right now that one of them is doing something to screw up, right? Not consciously, they're just not doing what they're supposed to do. Basically 100% chance. And if I was near this, I'd get triggered and I'd go, oh, and my happiness would disappear. So what I began to say is, I want to be happy even if they screw up. I want to be happy if they lost $1 million. I want to be happy, like, if my happiness is dependent upon other people behaving a certain way, the way I want them to, I'm a pretty influential guy, but I'm not God, right? And everybody's got their own things that they're doing. I'm never going to stay happy. And if I have to even make my happiness based on me behaving a perfect way every moment, it's not going to happen. So I gave room for life. And I decided to make a real decision. That's my invitation to people, and then I'll answer your question about how I know. First, you got to make the decision that says, life is too short to suffer. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in your lifetime with your children, with your wife, with your economics, with your business. I'm sure you're going to do well, everything, but there's things outside our controls. The government could change the rules on something, right? The rules have changed before around direct marketing and on the web and so forth. Somebody in your family could get very ill. Someone can die in our families, right? No one wants to talk about it, but it can happen. If your happiness is only going to be when everything matches how you think it should be, you're not going to be there. And my view is that there's power in happiness. We downplay it in this culture. When a person is happy, they attract other people. When a person is happy, they live longer. That's a fact. When people are happier, they earn more, right? They do better in their careers. I mean, these are physiological, these are measured facts in our society, and yet we poo-poo happiness in our world. Like, oh, it's being enthusiastic or something like that. No, it's being inspired, in spirit, feeling alive. So what I did was, as much energy or passion I had before, I still had that, but what I found was, what was the stuff that would suck away that energy? And so now to answer your question, how would I know? Number one, I put the line in the sand and said, these are the ones I tend to drop into. I'm not doing it anymore, and if I find it, I gave it a rule. I got 90 seconds to get out. 90-second rule. Now, it should have been the 4-hour rule at the beginning. On certain things. Learning 90 seconds was easy, but certain things you get hooked.
Totally.
And I was like 4 hours, maybe the 4-day rule on some of them initially. But as I did it more and more, it's like a muscle. And when you use a muscle over and over again, it works. It's there for you. And so how I know, to answer your question, a long way to answer your question, but without that, I don't think people understand what we're talking about, is I sense tension in my body. Like, when you're in a beautiful state, things flow. When there's a tension, you can feel it in your face, your head. Somebody says something, somebody didn't do something, somebody used a certain term, somebody dropped something out, or you did something, or you should have done. Whenever that happens, there's a tension. And so I've really trained myself to feel that tension. And when I feel, I go, 90 seconds, and it's a game now. 90 seconds. And since I value that happiness so much, not like a deluded person, I'm so happy. Like, I value being in a beautiful state because it may not be happy. It may be driven. It may be courageous. It may be feeling bold. It may be love. It may be compassion for someone else or even myself, right? I always have compassion for other people. I didn't have it for myself.
Right.
And so what I began to do is realize, holy cow, this is something that could change everything. And so that 90-second rule, I feel the tension, and then here's what I do. I know that it's triggered by one of 3 language patterns as a trigger, as an example. Loss, less, never. If you perceive that someone you're counting on, they failed to do something, or they failed to say something, or you failed to do something, or say something that you should have, then what happens is that tension starts to show up because your brain goes, I lost that opportunity. I lost this moment. I lost that respect. I lost this love. I lost the money. I lost whatever you thought you lost. And loss is always an illusion. It's like the next opportunity is 2 minutes around the corner. It's not that complex. If we look for it, if we find it, if we don't live in the illusion of loss. Or less is the next one. If you think because he or she did something or didn't do it, you have less of something you value, less love, less joy, less excitement, less time, less energy, less economics, less respect, you're going to suffer inside. Some people suffer by being angry. Some people suffer by feeling sad. Everyone has different flavors, right? But you're going to suffer. And the worst one is never. If you think because she or he did this, or Donald Trump did something or didn't do it, or Mary Sue or you self didn't do it, and now you'll never have that love, you'll never have that respect, you'll never have that joy, you'll never have that economics. Once you believe that stuff, then the suffering stays. So the way out of loss, less, never is always appreciation or gratitude or love.
Now, the Ontario Human Rights Commission is a radically leftist organization. I think it's the most dangerous organization in Canada, although you could debate that. And they set all sorts of policies about how this legislation was going to be interpreted, and the federal government linked to their website to state that Bill C-16 would be interpreted in light of those guidelines. So I went and read all the policies. Well, one of the policies was that if you didn't use the preferred pronouns of a given group, that you could be charged essentially with a hate crime.
Most people allow their circumstances to define them, as opposed to defining themselves and how they're going to show up in life. And so my mission is to help people to connect with the power they have within, their greatness. When you're pursuing your greatness, you don't know what your limits are, so you act like you don't have any. And when you live from that place, you can now be able to make a greater contribution and make a greater impact with your life.
And so, that second that just went by, that counted. And so did that second. And so did that one. And in those precious seconds, you were either building or you were decaying. You were either gaining ground or you were losing ground. In that second. And in every second. Every second counts. So, make every second count.
Which would bewilder us away from the world. What happens? The prefrontal cortex gets silent, and it's called transient, which means temporary, transient hypo, small, frontality. The neocortex, the seat in your brain of thinking, actually shuts down for a short period of time. This is profound information and will confirm your brain is built for genius. But if you don't do the right things, you're not going to be able to allow the genius to see the light of day.
Anh hay mơ mộng mình thức xa xôi, không màng về tình ái muôn nơi, sống cho là trọn kiếp đây thôi, đâu quan tâm gì chuyện đời. Thế mà lại ngâm tương tư, ông tầm bà muối xe tơ, đêm nằm trộm nhớ mơ mơ. Anh đã yêu em mất rồi. Anh hay mơ mộng mình thứ xa xôi, không màng về tình ái muôn nơi. Sống cho là trọn kiếp đây thôi, đâu quan tâm gì chuyện đời. Thế mà lại năm tương tư, ông tầm bà mũi xe tơ. Đêm nằm trộm nhớ mơ mơ về ai. Thì ra anh yêu rồi, từ ánh mắt nụ cười, từ đôi môi gọi mơ sao xuyến lòng anh. Thì ra mê em rồi, ngày hay đêm.
yeah, we want retribution.